heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at betsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB.
8:45 to 10 o'clock. We're a little early today.
It's graduation day.
It's graduation day.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. We're a little have a lot on our plate today.
Yes.
I do want to mention, though, Pete, I think Tigers Pride this week is only open on Friday, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, they have their end-of-the-year buffet tomorrow. So look at that. Look where we are. Isn't that terrific?
It's beautiful out
We're at
there.
the beach right now. Isn't that terrific? And we're going to fly in and come back for graduation, right? We'll be here on time.
Exactly.
You arranged the flight, Susan? Okay, we're good.
All set.
So,
Sure, I never get to go.
well, thank you for your remote assistance. We'll take it. So that's right. Graduation is tonight. We are at Barnes Airport. The weather forecast cleared up a bunch from yesterday. At one point, it looked like it was going to rain till about 4. I think the rain is done. I think it's just going to be a little humid, right?
Right. It's getting better and better.
Absolutely. Are we all set, Mr. Ricks? Are we good for graduation?
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
Final
Yes,
details
exactly.
taking place right now.
Absolutely. And so today, Chris is not with us, but my guest host is Susan Dargy. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to be here
My
today.
pleasure. Thank you for coming. And we have Ron Ricks, the Chief Financial Officer of Westfield Public Schools, and it is Ron Ricks' debut on Superintendent Spotlight. So welcome. Thank you for coming on the show. We have really, what we really want to talk about today is the Franklin Avenue MSBA project. We've been talking about it now for a few weeks, and we wanted to give our listeners an opportunity to hear what the project is all about and where we're headed. So I'm going to start with Ron. I know you and I have been going around and presenting to parents from PTOs, school councils. We've presented now to both staffs at Abner Gibbs, and we have a community meeting coming up. But can you just give us a quick background about what we're doing and where we are?
Sure. I mean, it's a real exciting time for the students
Sure
and
is.
families of our core area of Westfield to
Yeah.
really have the opportunity to develop a modern school to meet their needs that they haven't had in a long time. You know, basically, we're looking to replace Franklin Avenue School and Abner Gibbs School at the Franklin Avenue site, working with the Massachusetts State Building Authority to do a feasibility. Do we renovate the existing school built in the middle 50s and add on to accommodate the 200-something kids at Abner Gibbs School, or will we go through and tear down and rebuild a whole new school for them? But the concept really is to provide equal education, to have a year-round school for the kids that really deserve and need a great facility downtown.
Absolutely. So, you know, for historical purpose, when was Abner Gibbs built?
Abner Gibbs, 1914, so it's 105 years old.
105. And Susan, I'm going to put you on the spot because you were at one point an assistant principal at Franklin Avenue. When was Franklin Ave built?
Franklin Avenue was built in 1951.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Somewhere
That's
might be.
my guess.
That's your guess. I think it's 55, but I'm not sure. It could. It's in the
Okay.
50s.
Right.
Yeah. So it's good. So both of those schools really need. You know, they've been around a long time, and in comparison to our. So, Ron, can you talk just about how we have the placement of our schools and even some of the planning that we did last year?
Yeah. See, being a veteran administrator, I grew up when we had all neighborhood schools.
Right.
Prospect Hill, Ashley Street School was there, Franklin Ave, Southampton Road and Highland were the new big
The
schools.
new buildings back then.
Moving out to the suburbs of Westfield.
Right.
As of now, you notice we have a good-sized school of about 350 to 400 kids in each of the four quadrants: the northeast, the northwest, the southeast, and the southwest. And we have the older, aging schools that were built for a whole different education model in our downtown area. And, you know, growing up in Westfield, we're very proud of our neighborhood schools,
Yes.
that whole concept.
Yes.
You know, my kids went to a specific school, and my family, we always thought that was the best elementary school there was.
Everyone thinks that one, there, right?
Yeah.
Our friends that lived on the other side of town thought theirs was the best.
That's exactly what we want.
Which is a nice model here, and it's just, I just truly believe in keeping kids in their neighborhoods, keeping kids together. And right now, due to the small size or the inaccessibility of Abner Gibbs, we've got to transport some kids to an out of region school when they could be with their peers who they're growing up with, playing in the neighborhood. So this really allows us to have a real nice, solid educational model. Good for kids.
Absolutely. I mean, our staff, we can't put staff at Abner Gibbs if they're disabled as well.
Yeah, we've had some that have had surgeries, and we've had to relocate them to a
Right.
one-level building. You know, the other thing, too, is when we're working with the MSBA is we really do a great job of taking care of our schools in Westfield.
Right.
You know, every time they come through, they're amazed at the age and the condition they're in. Abner Gibbs is a beautiful school.
Absolutely. I was going to bring that that up. I mean, I love going to Abner Gibbs. The wood floors, the custodians do a wonderful job with those every year. They look like they're almost brand new. But Abner has its limitations, and some of that certainly includes the class size, not only
The actual size of each
the actual
individual
size
classroom.
of classrooms. I mean, we've all taught at some point. Those are small rooms, right? I mean,
Very
those are
small.
tiny, and so you really can't fit more than 20, 25. If you have 25 in a class there, they're crammed in,
Right,
right?
Get
especially
18 in a
fourth
class, they're
graders.
full at Abner.
They're full,
You know,
right?
We can hold 25 at
Franklin.
Avenue. The other thing with Abner is there's absolutely no room. It's landlocked. There's no room for expansion.
Right.
There's limited outdoor things. And in today's education, we're looking to get kids outdoors. We're looking at hands-on, project-based learning, experiential things where they're out doing some things in the ecosystem of their school. There is absolutely none other than a parking lot at Abner.
At Abner Gibbs, right. And it's a small parking lot.
Very
at best.
small. That's
So
not
if
big
you've
enough.
ever tried to go to an event at Abner, you know what we're talking
Right.
about. You're parking all over the place. Get there early if you want to if you want to have that. Speaking of which, we do have a community meeting on this, folks. Susan, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
When is that
so-
coming up? And we're going to talk about that a few times to make sure we catch people, make sure they come.
The Westfield Public Schools community meeting to learn about a new elementary school in downtown Westfield will be held on June 12th at 6:30 p.m. And that is going to happen right at Franklin Avenue Elementary School. It will give the community members who haven't been inside our schools a chance to see what is happening in those schools, what the facility looks like. And that presentation will be led by Stefan Zaporowski, our superintendent of schools, Mayor Brian Sullivan, and Ron Ricks, chief financial officer. And all community members are welcome to attend. If you would like more information, you can call the superintendent's office at 572-6403, extension 5.
Perfect. Now, the reason I wanted to do that early is to get this out there too. Originally, Abner Gibbs, and it wasn't on the calendar, but Abner Gibbs had scheduled their spring concert that night.
right.
So that has now been moved to Tuesday, the 11th. So there will not be a conflict of things happening. I wanted to get that message out there loud and clear. But back to Abner Gibbs, and again, I think we all love Abner Gibbs. I did get a question, Ron, what we're going to do with Abner Gibbs after this is all done. We don't know that yet. I mean, right?
Yeah, we're still so early in the process.
Right.
Is working with the State Building Authority. And we need to work with them because they're going to reimburse the city at about 69.5%.
That's pretty great, isn't it? That's a high percentage.
That's a great percentage as to where we are, but we can't afford to build a school by ourselves.
No.
And that's why working with them, we're at the second stage of a 9-stage process.
So we're very early in the process because, another question I've been fielding is, well, when's the new school going to open? And we're going to go over the timeline in a few minutes, but we are very early on in the process.
Right.
So the things that we're trying to do now, I mean, what are we putting together? Can you walk us through a little bit of? We're in the eligibility period,
Right.
folks. That's what it's called. But I also want to mention too that MSBA gets probably 100 applications every year from cities and districts
Right.
all across Massachusetts, and they only took 12 this year. And they're obviously their ability. I think just knowing who some of those folks, they would love to fix them all, but the funding just isn't there. So they picked 12 projects this year, and only one of them is in Western Mass, and it happens to be Westfield.
us.
So we are very fortunate, right? So talk about the eligibility period.
And that's a lot of they begin with a statement of interest.
Right.
So, I feel very fortunate in Westfield because I see we're proactive. We've taken the initiative of redistricting last year to
Yes.
conform our elementary schools from a K-5 school to a K-4 to maximize the space at our two newer facilities that were built or renovated in 1999 and 2000.
Right.
Okay. As a population have changed, we had room there and we were tight at the elementary level. So by moving that up, that freed up space in the elementary
Well, we were also able to bring the students from Russell
allowed
back,
to move the
which was
kids
great.
back into Westfield from Russell, which is a great facility and a great partnership we have with the town of Russell. But it's just good for kids. It's good for families to be in their neighborhood schools and area. So we're what's nice is our projections now for enrollment that when we do complete the new school, which is about 4 or 5 years out,
Right.
we're going to have a little tweaking of movement of kids, not a major one. And that's very appealing to MSBA. They want to see that we're ahead of it, that we're maximizing our other space, not just saying we want a new school or we need one, that we've shown a whole systemic approach to providing education in Westfield. So we wrote the statement of interest and we worked with MSBA on that, and we were fortunate, like you said, as one of 12 schools to be invited in for the eligibility period.
Right.
And that's a 270-day period that ends in November of
This year,
2019. And what we're doing is we're doing title searches. We're going back.
Do we own all the land?
We
Ron?
own all the land.
Really? No
Franklin Avenue,
complications?
yep.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And it's interesting when you look at some of the records of the 1800s of how things were recorded.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't have Google Maps or other tools.
Oh, no,
back
no.
then, but we've done all
didn't.
that. We've gone through working with our law department on all the compliances. So does the city of Westfield have all these policies in place? Are we compliant with a variety of things? So that's a major part of it. We've gone through working with architects on our enrollment studies as what enrollment looks like, and we were fortunate we had done that when we looked at the redistricting in 2018, so we're ahead with that. And then the biggest thing is we're looking on, it's called the educational profile, is what does education look like at our schools now, and
Right.
what will it look like afterwards? So we're in the process of putting all that together to be submitted this summer and then finalized in November. So hopefully, at one of the board meetings in December, January, February, we'll get invited into the next phase, which is the
The
feasibility study.
feasibility study, right, which is when things start coming together a little bit more, right?
Right, and basically, you know, people are asking, what's the name of the new school? What's it look like?
Yeah.
Colors? That's
What are the
like,
yeah? What's it going to be called? They got that too.
Yeah.
What's it going to be called?
Right now, we have, in the feasibility studies, we develop questions and we start answering the questions as to what our needs are.
At that point.
To give you the best example would be is we know in 2014 we had the architects come in and engineers and do a study, and we have a schematic that we could have added on easily without changing the infrastructure, a wing for 100 students. So we know we have the capacity to
right.
add on a wing for at least another 200. The water's there, the sewage, the amplage with the electricity, all the infrastructure is there to add on. We'd have to really do some major renovations to the existing building. And the thing that I really like is connecting that outer campus building that serves for special. It's been a former kindergarten or the
It
library.
was a library at one point. Yeah, it's
You
been
know,
a different
so
bunch
we've got
of
some
things.
schematics with that. And what that does is now we'll go back and say, what are our needs? One of the biggest things we know is to change education. We have a lot of students from the Franklin Avenue and the core area that we have to bus to other areas of town because of disabilities, where they physically can't get in the building.
English language learners.
Second language learners, some of our students with learning abilities. But more importantly, we can take and design and restructure the building with 21st century classrooms.
Right.
You know, classrooms that are joined to each other so they have collaborative learning space. Today's learning's problem solving, it's analyzing, it's working in teams, doing all that. And yet at the same time, you need cocoon areas for some kids that need privacy at certain points.
Sure.
And it's not a partitioned wall in a classroom, it's a naturally designed area. So we can really foster all this, have areas for our special subjects. And one of the beautiful things about Franklin Avenue School along the dike and along the river, we've got natural ecosystems outside that we can incorporate into outdoor learning spaces. What a really nice science model we can give kids.
Right, and with a downtown location, it lends itself also to service learning in that community,
Right.
which is something that we foster as well.
Absolutely. All right, Pete, I think we're going to take our first break, right? We got to pay some bills or something
Sounds
like
good.
that. Yeah. Thanks for listening to Superintendent Spotlight, folks. We'll be back in a few
in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
And welcome back to Superintendent Spotlight. You know, and I just want to throw out, Susan, because Chris Rogers stopped over. The Westfield Intermediate students yesterday had a big treat, didn't they?
They did.
They went to see the Westfield Starfires at Bullens Field. And I do want to thank Chris Thompson and Donnie Morehouse for helping us set that up. But from everything I'm getting, the kids had a great time. And we love having the Starfires in town. And we also have a new guest, folks, you hadn't noticed. Mayor Brian Sullivan flew into our off-site location. If you look there, we're at the beach. We're at the beach right now. That's our screen. That's
playing Jimmy Buffett tunes?
Well, I wish.
I Built This City was a good one.
But anyway, I think they had a great time. I know the Starfires came and they went. I went to see them at Fort Meadow. They were showing the kids how to throw a ball and hit it. It was really just good stuff. So the Starfires are great to have in town. And Mayor Sullivan, I know that you had quite a bit to do with that. So thank you.
We all did. I mean, I say that all the time. You can't get anything like that done unless you have a lot of cooperation.
Absolutely.
From Park and Rec to the school department to DPW, police, everybody. Somebody had a piece in it somewhere.
Excellent. It's a great community. So, all right, back to our MSBA project. And again, we have Ron Ricks with us. And if you just joined us, Susan Dargy is our guest host in for Chris on the Zap and Chris show. So here we go. We left off, we talked about the eligibility period and how it's a 270-day period. And now we are in, we do have some paperwork to turn in July. But this ends in November, and then we're going to go to the feasibility period. But, Mayor, while we have you, anything you want to jump in on just what we've done in the eligibility period? I know next week we're going to try to finalize the building committee right?
We're just getting all the ducks in a row right now, what it is. And one of the biggest things, and I said this the other day at the school committee meeting, was the community outreach that one we need to do, required to do, but the other because we all want to do that. We're putting this out. You're on the radio, you're in the newspaper. We've had some of the school meetings and the PTO meetings.
Yes.
People are going to know all about this project
and so
from the get-go.
Absolutely. That's a great transition, Susan, for you to talk about our survey.
So people will know about this project, and we want to know their thoughts about the project and also about the transition that Ron mentioned earlier with reconfiguring our schools to be 6 K to 4, a 5, 6, a 7, 8, and then the 2 high schools. So there is a survey that's out there now. We are surveying all members of the community.
Anyone can take it.
Right. Whether or not you currently have anybody or any connection with the schools, we want to know what you think. And now you'll be able to answer, if you've tuned in today, you'll be able to answer yes to the question, are you aware of the project? That is one of the questions. And you can find the link to take that survey on our Facebook page.
Right.
It is available on our main district website.
Schoolsofwestfield.org.
And also all of our principals have sent that link via email out to all members of their school community, staff, and parents.
Right. So all right, I'll give you a little preview. So far we have about 560 responses, but the survey's open until June 13th.
Yes.
Plenty of time to take it. In terms of awareness, 72% of the respondents so far said they are aware of the project. So that's pretty good. So that's 3 out of 4 people are aware of what we're trying to do.
After the radio show, that should jump to at least 80.
We hope so,
because
yes.
all of them will
people
take
will
it.
know. And we're about 90% either agree or strongly agree that this project needs to be done. So that's pretty encouraging numbers. Again, we're hoping to to get 2,000 responses, but that's where we are. So, but I wanted, you brought up the transition. That was foresight on our part, and I know, thank both of you, because we worked last year our tail off to get this year ready, and that was by pulling the 5th grade out of the elementary schools and putting and creating an intermediate and a middle school, and even the survey results on that, we're at about 73% right now saying that they strongly agree that we met expectations on that. So that's a pretty good number. As we you usually don't please that many people all the time.
I know, in today's world, that's
Yes,
really good.
That's really good.
But all of those moves right now have been extremely important because of the strategic planning. And if I can emphasize that, everything we've done lately over the last couple of years with moving students and moving students back into town from Russell,
that was great,
the
too.
5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, those were all done with a purpose.
Right.
And so that once this new school hopefully comes to fruition, we won't have to do a lot of changing and moving. We will some. It'll just be
But
logistics
minor.
at that
Yeah,
point.
it'll be minor.
But minor because of the decisions we've made before it. So we've been planning for this over the last couple of years, the way you've moved students in and out. And it went, I can't talk for everyone, it went pretty smoothly. I know we knew there was going to be some bumps and
Right,
bruises
and there were.
and things like that, and there were.
But considering the enormity of the task,
Nothing that couldn't be handled.
Right.
That was
Right.
the big point. It's not like we sat there and go, oh my God, we never even thought of this, and this is really bad. It was just more, logistics and things like that. I'm sure Pam and the busing was probably top notch on that category.
well, I know Pam was working on the busing, and there were some issues in the beginning, and we straightened them all out, I believe, by the end of September.
But it was a whole new approach for them.
Right.
And it was some of the changes with the intermediate school and the middle school. We've literally had some families, their kids walked out the door of their house, one turned left to get on the intermediate school, the other turned right.
Right.
I mean, we've never had that before. So we worked that out. Like you said, we had some issues, but everything could have been fixed and resolved, and it was.
And it was.
And we know it's an inconvenience when it happens, but in the long haul, I think we did a real nice job.
I do too, and I want to thank really our parents for their patience as we
Correct.
worked through some of the kinks. I mean, that was to be expected, but the amount of planning, and we had parents help us plan on our various
Right.
committees for the transition, so it really went well. But that planning, right, has led us now to, like we said, we're in the eligibility period, MSBA, and now after November, Ron, that 270 days ends. So
Correct.
what's the next part? When will we hear about the feasibility piece?
Well, we're hoping it's at the December, January, or maybe February meeting. And again, based upon the work we've done now, which I mentioned earlier, we're a couple years ahead because we've been doing this.
Right.
So we're really just submitting the documents. Then we get invited in to participate in the feasibility study. So it's not a guarantee, but we get invited in. And then that's where the work begins. And what happens is we hire professionals. We hire the architects, the engineers, the project managers that take over for it. So the experts of building schools have designed. And what we're doing now, we're going back and looking at, okay, like I said, what's the option at Franklin Avenue? Is it to renovate and add on, tear down and build over? We believe that the facility will hold all that, but that'll be confirmed with the architects. We're looking at traffic flow. We're looking at all those
That
other
question
things.
came up too when we met with the staff at Franklin. Are they going to do some traffic pattern changes? But again, all those things will hopefully be answered with the feasibility
Right.
study.
And in the
right?
initial schematics, we have that with additional access. In today's world, you need multiple access in and out of every site,
Right.
Not just one. So we're looking at, maybe an access out on Franklin Street, one-way traffic in through there for flow of it. Because when the school was built, everybody walked to the school. And maybe
Right,
they had
that's
one
right.
bus, right? Right now, we have drop-offs. We have a lot of parents dropping off kids. We have more buses. So we need to work all that, and that brings into the safety factor.
Right.
But the bottom line in the feasibility is, we're going to work with the experts to make sure the site's appropriate, what we can do, answer the question, is it new or is it renovated, add on? But working with MSBA, the bottom line is what's the most cost-effective and appropriate educational solution? In the old days, when we built the middle schools and renovated, we got to pick what we wanted. Now it's working with them to get the solution to what our needs are, not necessarily our wants.
Well, if they're reimbursing us almost 70%, I think they have a right to make those requests. And as Ron said earlier, we're certainly not building a school on our own. We can't. It's just
No,
not.
it
Schools are too expensive to build, right?
That's right. And the previous school was a model building, which kind of was a cookie cutter type of thing.
Right.
We selected A. This will be different because it's going to be either, like Ron said, either a demo and redo or an add-on to what the existing and renovate.
It's pretty unique. In the last school, we did not get that almost 70% reimbursement, 69.5. We were probably around 60, correct?
Yeah, it was like 62 something, but we also did all kinds of things, initial planning with energy efficiency,
Right,
green avenues. We went with the model school. We had additional points and percentages for being in the downtown area. That model has all been changed with MSBA.
But we're 69.5% now, Ron.
Right.
Is there any chance, or Mayor, if you might know, is there any chance that because it's downtown, are there any point system anymore?
I'm not sure of the answer to that. I think if you're still using your green products and things like that, you qualify for an additional bump. They may not be as big as they were 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But we start higher. So if we can get into the low 70%,
that's pretty darn
good.
good.
We're doing well.
Yeah.
And that'll come out with the schematic design stage, and then in about 2 years, should we get invited into the funding area, that's when all that gets formalized. So we'll have an initial concept of the ballpark of the building, of what it would cost, and then we'll look at all the credits for reimbursement at that point. And that's about 2021 would be about the earliest we'd be invited in for funding to start construction.
Right.
So because you've trained me well to be on the radio,
Yes.
We've been using the acronym MSBA quite
Ron
a bit.
didn't give it in the beginning, but we like to
And
keep going. Yeah.
That is the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and that is the government agency, department that we work with.
Under the treasurer's office.
Okay.
Deb Goldberg's the treasurer of the Commonwealth, and under her is this school building committee, which is the funding source and approval source. You have to. I mean, we're one of only 8. Was it that
12. One of 12 total.
One of
but
12
only
that
one in
qualify.
Western Mass.
And the only one in Western Mass. And that says they look at these things in depth. I mean, they were out here many times asking questions, taking tours.
Well, they toured
finding
both
out-
buildings.
They
With-
toured both
Yeah, they
buildings.
were down into the boiler rooms, into the basements, in closets. We got to give them credit. They've done a nice job of being thorough to validate and check of everything that we tell them.
So knowing we're at the point we are now, they see a need as much as we see the need. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And in terms, because we went to Boston to hear the news. I mean, when they invited us out, we didn't know where it was going to go necessarily, but it was certainly nice that it went the way that it did.
Yes.
You don't want to make a trip out to Boston for no reason, because we did that once too.
Yeah. Been there, done that.
Absolutely. All right, folks, it's 8:29. You're listening to Superintendent Spotlight. It is 73 degrees outside, so it's a warm one this morning.
It was about 102 in here.
I agree. All right, folks, we'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks for listening.
Who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they picked, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh. Of tender years, can't know the fears that your elders grew by, and so please help them with your youth. They see the truth before they can die. Teach your parents well, their children's hell will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams. The one they picked, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardy siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value. One of our underwriters here at WSKB's Community Radio is Carson Center for Health and Human Services, a nonprofit organization located at 20 Broad Street in Westfield. They provided behavioral health and rehabilitation services in communities throughout Western Massachusetts since 1963. There are services for children, adolescents, adults, families, and couples. You can find them on the web at carsoncenter.org or at 413-572-4132.
Wednesday mornings start off right from 6 to 8 a.m. with Tina Gorman and Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
And welcome back to Superintendent Spotlight. It's 8:34, 73, a bit muggy outside today, folks. So I hope you, if you're outside, you already know that. We're not telling you anything you don't know. This week, or on our show, we are talking about the MSBA Franklin Avenue project. I have my guest host. We have Susan Dargy here today, and we have our guest. We have Ron Ricks, the Chief Financial Officer of the Westfield Public Schools, and Brian Sullivan, the Mayor of the great city of Westfield.
That's right.
That's right. And before we talked about the eligibility period, about some surveys, and the community piece. One of the things I think people have to realize too, one of our motivating factors, because a question is going to come out, what about the cost of the new school? And we talked about reimbursement, but by doing this in the end, we're going to have some cost savings, right?
Well, I guess, savings, I think what we're doing is by moving out of Abner and redoing Franklin, your net change hopefully isn't going to be very drastic with a brand new school.
Right.
And it's really a project of need, and that's why the MSBA came out. We were just talking about this. One of the things they knew, Ron had to take them around. We had classrooms in closets, and we were using every inch of space that we had. Abner is an awesome building.
Absolutely.
It's a great school. Talk to anyone that ever went there. They grew up there. They lived there. They schooled there.
If you went to school in Abner, and it was your neighborhood, right, Ron? That's the best school in Westfield.
That's
and
right.
That's how the neighborhood schools.
Second to Highland, but yeah.
Because
And right behind Prospect Hill.
So it's funny because, people feel that way in Westfield, right? They really
Absolutely.
appreciate their neighborhood schools. So this really gives us a neighborhood school in the core district of downtown Westfield, a new facility.
But really, what you guys are talking about is what education's about. It's not the building. It's the magic that we do with the staff and the kids in it.
Right.
It's the culture we create. It's the feeling and it's the experience. That's what education's about.
Absolutely.
We have an opportunity to strengthen that by building the facility that meets their needs. But more importantly, I think it allows us at the cost savings to redeploy resources to go directly to the kids, not putting a new roof on, not having heat go out the windows or through the roof. It's education back in. We knew we did a study when we looked at the former elementary school. We would save about $1.1 million a year, and that was in about 2010 $12.
Right.
What we're
Probably
doing
more now.
We're looking at one heating system. We're looking at consolidation of custodial services, of healthcare services, of administrative services. Really, a small school is very cost ineffective. But if we can take that money and redeploy it back in, so of the $1.1 million, about $680,000, $700,000 would have gone to the bond payment. But the other money gets freed up in our operating expenses to do those additional resources for kids, for the technology. Because, to be very honest, we are maxed out with the use of the facility at Abner Gibbs.
Yeah, there's not much more we can do there.
We can't expand the electrical power, and everything is moved on to electricity now with charging of the carts at night. Fortunately, we've moved to mobile learning, so our carts are charged up on the weaker hours of consumer use at Abner Gibbs because it's at night.
But the carts are in the hallway, too.
They're in the hallway, they're a thing. But again, the thing goes back is we can really reinvest that money back in. You look at it, rather than a nurse for 200 kids, now we're looking at maybe 1.5 nurses for a larger number of kids. Same thing with administration. So the money goes right back into the classroom, into the staff for kids.
And that makes sense, right? I mean, from the city perspective, too?
Economically, it makes total sense. I mean, it's one of the ways you have to do all those calculations out when you're looking at a new building. It's not necessarily new dollars that are going into the new building. It's what are you saving from the old way we did things? Like Ron says, just even staffing and things like that. But the Abner Gibbs building is over 100 years old. It's done its time, and we need those students deserve to have the upgrades, the power, the internet, everything that's education now that wasn't 100 years ago. They deserve too, and that's one of the things that drove the reason we're doing this.
Yeah.
So, and one part of the process I know you talked about, Ron, is a building committee. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're in the process now, working with the leadership team of the superintendent, the mayor's office, and Tammy Tefts as the purchasing director of meeting the eligibility compliance of putting together a building committee. On the former school, we had a building committee that I was on of about 30 people. It wasn't really functional. It was too big. It was too out of control.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly. Right. So now we've limited down to about 15, and of the 15, about 12 of them are required by the MSBA, by legislation. The chief executive officer, a financial
mayor,
officer.
yes, one of them, right?
The purchasing agent, the superintendent of schools. So we're looking to have a smaller one, decision one, but it's just to act as like the brain trust of it, because then we're going to reach out as we get into some ad hoc groups to get input from families and from staffs as we move forward, especially into the schematic designs 2 or 3 years down the road.
It sounds a lot like the process that we used for the reconfiguration, where we had a core group.
Correct.
And then got input from and had work groups for specific areas.
Right.
And it was a successful process.
And that's one of the compliance issues we're working on with MSBA right now. So it's, everybody wants to be on it. But again, we want to make it a working group. And what's nice about this one is everyone that's on it will be an equal partner in it. In the past, we had haves and have-nots by those that could vote, those that had more of a say. And some of them, we kind of just sat there. So really, we see it as a more working group and a more administrative group, reaching out to involve the real stakeholders that'll be living the school when it opens.
Terrific. So if this, and I want to go back to the cost thing, because reason I wanted to bring that up is because people have to realize, yes, there will be a cost associated with building this new school, but the amount of savings that will come out of it, if the 1.1 million comes into fruition, I mean, you do the math, it's going to pay for itself over time. It really is.
And we'll be doing that as we get a little bit later in the process. I anticipate that 1.1 million being actually higher.
Right.
The longer we've done it, the more cost saving, because everything has gone up. Things are very different in schools now. You look at, we've been very fortunate in Westfield working with the mayor's office and the city council with the energy efficiency.
Right.
We've reduced our energy consumption. The streamlining of transportation with the new bids, we've lowered our transportation costs. I really feel good about working with the city. We've become more efficient at what we've been doing. Yep. And that has savings. Hey, be able to bring forward a budget this year with no net increase to the city really feels good because of the work we've done in a lot of areas.
You need to be commended for that.
And we'll continue that through this building process.
Yeah. So, Ron, can you take us through, we have about, not even 15 minutes left here, so I want to make sure we cover everything we want to, but people want to know, what's the timeline? Where are we? Right now we are in the, again, eligibility period, feasibility period. We're hoping for next February. What happens after that? Because the question we're going to get the most from your office to my office, when is the school going to open?
When's the shovel going in the ground?
Exactly.
When's it
So
gonna open?
what do we have? And then nothing's guaranteed, but at least what's our projected
Right.
time?
What I'll share is the best case scenario. So if we get invited in January or February into the feasibility stage, that's a year-long process. I mean, there are literally thousands and thousands of questions to generate and get answers. So that'll take us a year to do that. After we go through the year, that'll bring us into an initial schematic design. We'll be working with the architect's engineer after we've assessed everything. Is okay. We're gonna. I'm just saying we're gonna renovate and add on. Here's some schematics. What are your needs? We've got an outer campus. We could see that connected with that for the 100 kids, and then build an L-round. So now we have an internal outside learning space for kids that's in a major courtyard. I mean, it's a new type of learning for that. We'll be looking at, in the schematic designs, do we need a new common area that serves as the cafeteria and collaborative learning space? Designing all of that fits in there. One of the biggest things I could see in the schematic designs is the flow of traffic. I know when we met with the parents at Franklin Avenue, there was a major concern. For about 10 minutes a day in the morning, at night, traffic is crazy.
Right.
How do we make a flow with that? The other thing is, we want to make this a year-round school? Rather than have the kids in that neighborhood go to a different school for summer programs and have evening events, how do we build it like we did the middle schools back in 2000, so we have community sections of the building that are now open at night and partitioned off so we can't get the other? That's the exciting things that'll come out of our needs. Once we do that, every parent knows parking's an issue at our elementary school. So how do we take outdoor learning spaces and make it multifunctional so we can serve it parking for parent nights and open houses and things, and then educational things during it? So that's the modern thing with school. So that'll take a year to come up with that. And then hopefully in the spring of 2021, we start looking at the schematics. And then once we get a draft of that, it would, at the best case scenario, in July of 2021, we would be invited into the funding stage. So with the schematics, we'll determine what the cost of the building was. I can't even make up a number.
No,
at
it's
this
hard to say
point.
because it's so. But the funding piece, Mayor, can you give us a little background on how does that work? I mean, so what has to happen?
That would have to be a bond.
Okay.
So a city bond for the school department purposes. So that would be a request from the mayor to the city council with strong support from the school department. I don't think the school committee actually votes on the finances of that, but they'd be extremely strong supporters, and that's what we're doing now is the opportunity to talk all about it so everyone knows that it's coming. And then it would be a bond for the entire project, but with the reimbursement from the MSBA, the city would be making obviously annual payments towards that bond. So,
okay, do they pay us back all at once, Ron? Or
No, it's
sure
spread
it's
out
the same
over a
as the bond.
20-year period.
So
very
it'd be a
similar to
20-year
that.
bond and a 20-year payment
20-year
from the
payment.
MSBA, or a 30-year bond. I guess on the financial end, you won't know that until you know what the number is and where we are. But the treasurer, the former treasurer and the new treasurer have this number, at least a roundabout number, in their future work. So we know we're working towards needing a school bond for the city. So as other bonds are coming due and things like that, we're looking at that number so that it just doesn't come out of the blue.
Right.
We're preparing for that now.
And we're trying to get the word out for the same reason. We don't want this. We don't want to shock people, which is why I was happy to see, the survey results that we talked about earlier.
Well, we've said from the get-go, we want to keep people informed. Living in the city, I know there's information spread at the Big Y, Stop and Shop, all around town, and
barbershop.
Sometimes it's not coming from the horse's head; it's coming from the other side of the horse. But
it's all accurate, right? When you hear that at the Big Y,
every story is accurate.
But we really want to keep people informed of it. We want to give them the information. We're trying to really be out front. It just makes a lot of sense. That's the way to work as a community. Talking about the funding as we go back, one of the things we'll be looking for is funding for the feasibility study, and we'll be working with the school committee, city council, and the mayor's office probably in November to look at some funding to cover that. And again, we'll have a better estimate with it, but it's going to be a significant amount of change to hire the professionals for a year. So if we get invited in July of 2021.
That's for the funding piece.
For the funding, and the mayor talks about, when's the shovel go in the ground? Well, it'll probably go in shortly after that. The bidding would go out, which takes about 6 months. So we're looking at construction in the year 22 and 23.
How long does it take to build a school? I've been asked that question as well.
Average of 18 months to 2 years because of the renovation. And again,
till you can get the kids back in, and this could
Right.
be a tricky one depending on what they come up with, whether it's the renovation and addition, or is it demo and rebuild? Because now we have the issue of where do those students go during the time of construction. So
we
that's
were asked
another
that
piece
the other day, too.
and that'll come out in the feasibility,
That's
you know.
exactly right.
And then as we get into, is some schools been able to build the addition, keep the kids in the older one, move them into the new one? We did that with the middle schools. In 1999, we closed the former middle school, which was South Middle School. Now it's the middle school again. I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah.
And we moved all those kids. There were 1,100 of them. We moved them up to the new North Middle School for 1 year as we closed and renovated. Some places do the same thing on the same campus. If it's a tear down and rebuild, obviously we need to find an alternative site for 2 years for those students.
Right.
So if you look at that timeline, if we start construction in 2022, we're looking at somewhere in 2023 for the opening of the new school. And that's best case scenario. Who knows what happens when we open up some of the walls and things of a 60, 70-year-old building. So that's a ballpark.
So if I'm listening, I'm a parent right now, or I'm a community member right now, what can I do to help if that's what I want to do? What can we do? Where are we at in terms of if they want to add? Well, first, if they want to reach out to us, we want them to come to our meeting, which Susan's going to announce again in a second.
Right. We want them to take the survey.
Take the survey.
Take the
and
survey,
get online.
schools@westfield.org,
Yep.
right?
At this point in time, I think it's getting involved with the things that we're doing. So we're doing the community pieces. Go to these meetings when they're available to you. Go online and stay up with it and take the survey. Be part of the beginning stage so that when we get to the feasibility studies and the picking of the architect and the building, people aren't saying, well, we didn't know this was happening. So that get involved now. We haven't set up the subcommittees, but at some point the building committee will be then branching out into the, as you already mentioned, parents and teachers and not students probably in this, but the parents of the students, to get on these subcommittees to help us with the planning stage of what the building's going to be like. So
Right.
I think the biggest thing is if you have questions, contact us.
Absolutely.
We're going to give you straightforward answers because what we want to do is we want people to be informed. We've met with all the staff at school so they have information to share with the families and the students. But we want to get accurate information out. And I totally agree with the mayor. Is get involved. When we get into the feasibility studies, I'm sure our architects are going to be asking the neighbors questions about traffic flow, things on that. Is give us your input and your needs so that we can move forward.
Well, we had that from one of the PTO parents, I think, the other day. He was concerned about traffic because he lives right on Franklin
Right
Avenue.
across the street.
Right across the street.
Nobody knows better about traffic flow than the people that live right there.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember with the old planning and stuff because there was questions about, can fire apparatus get in? Can, things that maybe you don't think of all the time, but the person who lives across the street knows about it because they've lived it for a long time. So that information's really good when you start building, especially the flow of vehicle traffic. I don't think we're going to need too many buses in this situation. We're maybe a half dozen or so.
Not even. I'm going to guess. Right now we have 3 buses: one at one at Abner Gibbs, and 2 at Franklin Avenue. So we're maybe looking at 3 buses at the most.
3 or 4,
But
and that was done by design.
Right, but that'll be designed in so that the kids. It's as simple things. The door on buses are to the right, so when the bus pulls in, the door is not going out into traffic; it's going right to the sidewalk.
Right.
Things on that line.
Yep. And then parent drop off, which you talked about.
Correct.
That's increased, tenfold in the way, 100-fold, whatever.
Seems like everyone's driving their kid to school now.
And that's one of the things you have to address when you're building this. So the people that are doing that are the ones that are going to have the best information on that. So that's why get online, ask us questions, get involved with the process now, because there's a lot of times we sit back and go, wow, we didn't think of that, but that's a great idea.
Absolutely, and it's not.
They're all good.
Yeah, it's not like we appreciate the feedback,
we
good
need the
or
feedback.
bad.
We need the
We need it.
We learn from it.
Absolutely.
Because it's as much as we see school from our lens. And as a parent, when I go into my kid's school, I see it differently than I do as the administrator in the district.
Right.
It's
That's right.
a whole different setup.
Absolutely. So, Susan, and I want to tell you that someone asked me, I didn't know anything about this, so I told them to come to our community meeting. So when is that?
The community meeting is on June 12th at 6:30 p.m., and it is being held at Franklin Avenue Elementary School, 22 Franklin Avenue. So come, ask questions, share concerns, share ideas.
And the survey, which is available on www.schoolsofwestfield.org. And again, we ask questions just about kind of getting some feedback from our transition process last year or over this, the planning. And then, of course, we have some questions about the new school.
Right, and one of the questions is, what's the best way for us to get information to you?
Right.
Because we want the information, as we said, to get out to everybody.
So, and I want to put this out there too. When you get to the survey, you'll see a question, because that question came up from MSBA, is would we be interested in potentially putting a preschool in some of our elementaries or this elementary? And it doesn't mean that we're closing the doors on Fort Meadow, folks. Who knows what's going to happen? That'll all come out in the feasibility study. But one of the things we do know is that we want more students to go to preschool, because we do see that we have kindergarten students that are coming in without any preschool at all, and it's okay. That's okay, but it does help if students have preschool when they come to us in kindergarten. Right, Susan,
Absolutely.
as a former elementary principal?
Yes.
It goes a long way.
And it allows them to spend a longer time at their elementary. It eliminates a transition.
It does. It eliminates a transition.
And the earlier children's age are, the more difficult transitions. I remember watching some kids go to kindergarten and mom and dad drag them across the street, that separation, and their kids are fighting. Yeah. But again, now we get them in school, they get used to the norms, they build the relationships. Right. It could be good for kids.
We see that even from Fort Meadow to going whichever elementary school,
right.
It's a whole new building. Right. It's a very, I'm a tender age in terms of, attachment, certainly, right. with family, with parents, teachers, and your peers. So
right, and it's the benefit of having that connection to the family earlier on, because the school as a community agency can help families.
Absolutely.
And so having that connection as early as possible is beneficial.
Right.
All right, closing thoughts before we head off. Anything we want to add?
I think you've nailed it.
Okay.
Just stay tuned and get involved and ask questions.
Absolutely.
Be part of the process.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to write, this is an exciting time. I was
is.
fortunate enough to be the first principal at North Middle School and design and open that building, but the excitement of the kids and the families to have something new with that, but more importantly, the new opportunities we created for kids. Mm-hmm. I don't have any preschool kids anymore, but I'm really excited about this program for kids in the core area of Westfield to give them facilities and new learning opportunities to prepare them. Just think about it. In the year 2023, those kids are being to work in the year 2043. I hope I'm still around.
Yeah. That goes for all of us, I think.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest thing is people want it yesterday, and
right.
we know that, but
right.
we just went through the process, and you're looking at 2023. Wouldn't it be great? September of 2023, you're opening the doors. I think that's a little
might be ambitious.
Future, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a little ambitious.
And that's the ideal.
Ambitious
best case scenario. Best case scenario.
Best case.
All right, folks, that wraps our show for today. Thank you for listening. Next week, please tune in. We're back at our regular time slot, 8:45 to 10 o'clock, when we have Bill Parks and Bo Sullivan here from the Westfield Boys and Girls Club. So we're going to talk all things about the Boys Club and educate folks on what happens there. All right.
Great.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we talked all night about the rest of our lives, where we're gonna be when we turn 25. I keep thinking times will never change. Keep on thinking things will always be the same. But when we leave this year, we won't be coming back. No more hanging out 'cause we're on a different track. And if you got something that you need about tomorrow like we think about now? Can we survive it out there? Can we make it somehow? I guess I thought that this would never end. And suddenly it's like we're women and men. Will the past be a shadow that will follow us round?